Good morning, Mr. Steven. How's everybody doing on this fantastic non-farm payrolls day? Hence the going live a little bit earlier than usual. We got NFP in 10 minutes. Bitcoin looks like it's trying to break out. If Fartcoin is any indication of what we can expect on Bitcoin, I would say, yeah, might be seeing a breakout. A lot of bullish volume here. You put in a bullish engulfing yesterday. Just literally could not get under the weekly open on Fartcoin, and now you're breaking out to the upside. I repeat, I would not be trying to short this thing. Does not look like it wants to go lower. Obviously you can. I can't predict what price will do, but there is a lot of bullish volume and a lot of momentum here. Something changed last night with dollar analysis for this week. We were anticipating that the dollar was going to be slightly sideways this week to up, and naturally it just went sideways all week, making 3 fresh weekly lows. You can see you're bouncing off of that right now. This essentially happened because it looks like something's going on over here. If we put this on a 4-hour, this is a little bit different than all of these 4-hour candles. You see how, like, since the BOJ intervened back in April, all of your 4-hour candles got bought into. Just look at the size of them. They're way smaller than this one. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know if they've intervened. I doubt it. I mean, you kind of have this scenario where USD JPY is unbuyable right now because we know that there's BOJ intervention potential. And it makes it like almost impossible to be long USD JPY because of that, but it just keeps grinding higher. So, I mean, if they've intervened, I don't think they have, but if they have, is it going to be enough to top this out? I don't know. We'll see. That's the issue for being long dollar this week. I think you will be able to go long dollar next week. So if you're looking for long dollar plays, I listened to what the Fed had to say yesterday, and though some people are saying, a lot of people are saying different things, I literally heard nothing. I'm not some big fantastic macro analyst or economic professor or anything like that. So let me get that out right off the bat. I'm a technical analyst, a price action analyst. That's what I do. But I didn't hear anything that make me do anything differently with my money. He's still hawkish. I don't think they're going to hike, but they were acting a little bit more hawkish during the FOMC meeting. And yesterday he was kind of like, I guess, not acting so hawkish. So we saw a little bit of a sell-off in the dollar yesterday. But then during the London session this morning, we saw the USD JPY get hammered. I think Bitcoin's going to break out today. You can see that you're currently testing support. You're above the week open. You opened a brand new July candle, set the low, and so far you've been making higher lows. Historically speaking, I don't have this chart available for me to just pull it up instantly right now this morning. But trust me, bro, in midterm years, July has historically been Bitcoin's best month. Only during midterm years. So it is plausible, feasible, and almost expected at this point that July is going to be a good month for Bitcoin. Now, with that being said, every month after that has been bad historically. So even if July is a good month, you got August, September, October, where it's probably not going to be good. But we'll see what happens. I still have a dollar bull bias. It's just obviously today's the last day of the week. I'm not looking to put on any new positions, except I am looking to buy Bitcoin. So I'm going to put a long on Bitcoin here in just about 2 seconds with a very tight stop, because non-farm can swing price in big ways. So any good numbers is going to be bullish for the dollar, typically bearish for Bitcoin. But looking at what we currently have here with the structure, with deltas, and if we pull up the session volume profile where the POC is right now, it's at the top of the day. This is not a sell. You are very bullish. So I want to buy dips. All right, I'm going to do that right now while I'm thinking about it. All right, I'm buying Bitcoin. I will most likely get wicked out in 5 minutes when you get the number, if the number's super bullish for dollar. But ultimately, I want to buy it again. So I am doing this with a very tight stop. Don't want to lose a lot of money on it. And then here's the thing. If it just takes off to the upside massively on the news, then I'll take profits quickly. So it's just a scalp. Don't be buying it with a lot of money that you cannot afford to lose or anything like that. Make sure you have a stop loss out. Make sure you're willing to lose the money. This is money I am willing to lose. Can't predict price, so it's just one of those things. Like, it looks like the sellers are very interested in selling Bitcoin here. With this much bullish pressure, I am very interested in stopping these guys out. So my trade looks like this real quick. But like I said, I mean, that can change in 2 seconds. You can see how very, very tight this stop is. How very, very big the position is. Generally, I trade with $1,000 with 20x leverage on Bitcoin. So it's been a couple good weeks. I'm going a little bit overboard here. I will only lose $60 if I get wicked out when the non-farm print comes out. If Bitcoin does rip to the upside instantly, then I'll be able to jerk, $200 or $300 worth of profits out of this thing with a very small move. I'll be able to jerk a couple grand worth of profits out of this thing if we get a candle this big by the New York session, or even sooner, or not sooner, but after, like when it closes, I'd be okay with that. But obviously it can fail. It can fail here. Let's go back down to the chart so I can show you what's what. We look at the 12-hour. You liquidated the prior 12-hour swing high, but you did close like right there. So, I mean, it does look very constructive. It's because of the bullish aggression is why I'm even looking for the long. But, I mean, clearly the sellers want this to go down, right? I mean, that's massive selling pressure up there. They're trying to call a top. And they could get it if the dollar takes off to the upside. They could get it. Dollar looks poised to actually come down here and test the 107.60, which is last week's low. But I mean, this could be a buying opportunity on the dollar. I think the dollar is going higher for Q3 2026. I think we're at 104 on the DXY by the end of the year. That's my honest opinion. We'll see what the dollar does here. We're getting ready to get another 2 minutes before we're going to get that print. Big selling pressure coming in here. That's good. This is almost a guaranteed stop loss. Okay? Almost a guarantee to be stopped out. 1 minute. 1 minute. We'll drop down to the 30-second. Are we on auto? We are. Boom. All right, so there's NFP. We'll look at it here in a brief moment. Just give this a little bit of time to work out. Let's kill the stop loss, but we have to do this very quickly. All right, let's go with it. All right, so I'm going to set a take profit on a partial. Current price 61,480, so I'm going to go 61,500. I want to take 75% of that off. Wait. That's not working the way I wanted it to. All right, so let's try 61,600. That's close enough to my target right there. Let's see if we can get a fill here. And then we'll have the correct position sizing for any upside continuation today. Oh, we need to put that stop loss back on there. Just in case we get a random crash. Which is kind of happening here. Let's see. All right, dollar's firming up. No, it isn't. It's selling off. So we'll see what it does here. I'm okay with it. I'm not worried about it. Either way. Let's see what the dollar's doing. Dollar's selling off. This should help Bitcoin, to be honest with you, but we should be able to get filled on that profit target. Hopefully. Because all your sellers are going to look at this as a liquidation move and then try to sell it again. And it just keep giving us liquidity on the upside. This is just high risk, very quick news scalping. Used to do this a lot more back when the channel first got started, but it's not so easy for very new traders to kind of understand what's even taking place. But it's just literally momentum scalping. There's no way to pick, like there's no way to know what price is going to do before the newsprint comes out. All we can do is use what indicators we have, and then sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We just mitigate that risk by, allowing ourselves to be stopped out with an amount of money we don't care to lose. Very aggressive type of trading. Sometimes lucrative. So it might want to go down and trigger me on a stop. If I continue to see dollar weakness, I'm going to buy it back. But down here is where I might want to be a dollar long. So I don't know. Don't know if I do want to buy it back. Let me see what Farcoin is doing real quick. So Farcoin, we're starting to see actual heavy selling pressure come in here. Yeah, if you look at the dollar yen, man, it looks like something is going on there. Like more than just dollar weakness here. Something is up. So this is a bearish engulfing weekly candle. So we're definitely going to want to be long Bitcoin. I mean, this is nasty. This weekly candle is bigger than the prior 2 weeks of upside. This is blow off type stuff. Now, you haven't taken out the low of this candle yet, so it isn't a technical blow off. I'm just saying the range. This is 1 day of price action, mind you. This entire weekly range is today's candle. See that? This is blow off style interventionistic. That's a new word. I just invented it. It looks like they have intervened once again. And that's my fear for being a dollar bull, because the BOJ has enough money essentially to take that dollar bid away. I think it would be beneficial for Bitcoin as only to give dollar weakness, right? That's it. The BOJ isn't buying Bitcoin. It has nothing to do with Bitcoin in itself. Just if Bitcoin gets a slight bid and you have a weak dollar, it would help price move up. But this is literally where we're wondering what's going to happen here. So it's under last week's low. It's almost retesting the breakout range highs. If it falls back into that range, I'm going to be very annoyed. Because it's going to look like a swing failure pattern on a dollar. So even though the macro backdrop supports a bullish dollar, because the trade is so freaking overcrowded on the upside, the BOJ comes in and hits the bid with a massive ask and just wipes out the freaking order book. And that causes the dollar to sell off for like 3 weeks. You know what I mean? Something like that could definitely ruin the upside on the DXY. But unfortunately, we won't know for sure until that data is available. So like right now, I can't go see if the BOJ's intervened or not. Because hypothetically speaking, they are still intervening. So let's look at what the news print even was. First and foremost, it was low. So this would be bearish for the dollar. Unemployment rate ticked down. So that would be bullish. I mean, it would be construed as positive, not necessarily bullish for the dollar. So since I don't know what's going on, I'm just going to have to watch price levels and let price be that guide. And as far as I'm concerned, with the DXY moving forward from today and going into next week, if the DXY fails to trend under this line here, forget about this one, because that line is last week's low. If it fails to put in a trending move down below this, I'm bullish still based on the macro conditions, the macro backdrop that we have, hawkish Fed, yada, yada. If the dollar is under it, I can't necessarily get bearish yet either. I have to wait. So It's basically going to just ruin the bid or the upside positions that I have already on the dollar, the ones that are currently open. It's just going to ruin those. It's not really going to be helpful moving on, though. But so far, so good for Bitcoin longs today. This is what we would want to see if we had a bullish bias on Bitcoin. The issue now is Bitcoin is chopping up all those sellers. Once it starts to trend and break out above 61,500, should be okay. But New York session opens at 9:30. They could also fade it. We'll see what happens. It's not up enough for me to take profits, so I'm just gonna eat the stop if it rolls over. All right, now that we've gotten the actual newsprint, I'm just going to go ahead and go back out to the 1 minute, because basically I just want to keep an eye on this over here. I'm not seeing anything on the Delta indicator yet that would make me think that the sellers have regained this control over this asset for the day. I don't want to be a seller today, regardless. So it's either be a long or don't trade. Yesterday, we missed the SPCX trade. We had a private session yesterday, and this thing literally tested the week open. And I was watching it, and I didn't take the trade because it had too much bullish bias or too much bullish pressure the last couple days. It was trading so far above the previous day high that I did not trust taking the short, even though I knew this line was the prior week open and was an objective level that we should have taken the trade. If we were willing to be a seller any day this week on SpaceX, we should have sold it yesterday. We literally didn't, and yesterday was the best day for the short. That's a 10% day. That would have been a $1,000 trade. Was so annoyed at it yesterday. So annoyed. It was such a beautiful reaction off that level. I don't know that I would be willing to sell the midpoint test of yesterday's range or not, to be honest with you. It just depends. Because if you the dollar is extremely weak this morning, that could put a bid under risk markets. So I don't know. I do like SpaceX lower eventually. I don't have like a really high probable setup on it. So I'll have to wait until I do get that high probable setup on it. And then yesterday, Tesla stopped us out. We did try a short at the monthly open, but we didn't love the setup. It was definitely too bullish to be looking for shorts. So yesterday wasn't a good day for us. Everything we were looking at yesterday did the exact opposite. Literally everything. But, I mean, you're going to have those days, right? Gonna have days like that. Hopefully everybody had a fantastic week other than yesterday. Good morning to everybody. Good morning, FYI. I learned you can add take profits without removing the stop loss. On the right, just click the pencil. Oh. So, right here, I'm assuming is what you're talking about. Nice. So it doesn't actually have it here. So I guess you could edit it right here. Okay, that's cool. Thank you for telling me that. That is the much safer way. Always leaving the stop loss on while you doodle with the keyboard is definitely going to be much safer to your P&L than closing the stop loss out, because it only takes literally 1 second to blow an account. Absolutely. So that is good to know for sure. We're definitely going to be using that. This is what he's talking about right here. The little pencil icon. So instead of exiting or closing out the stop loss, you can literally just edit the order by tagging that little pencil. Nice. Pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. Good stuff. I was kind of hoping we would get the breakout before the New York session, because my take profit is so far above the prior high. I almost need a breakout in order to get filled. I moved it up. I would have gotten filled on it if I wouldn't have moved it up, but it would have only been a $200 realized gain instead of the full 3. So that's just me being greedy. Any profits, I guess, is good. I don't know. It just depends on the person. Had a really good couple of weeks. Right now, my account needs to be pulled. I need to pull funds. So I bought. So Tuesday we had a public live stream, and I literally told everybody on the public live stream that I was going to chill on buying Bitcoin for a while, because I spent over $20,000 in the month of June alone. I've been buying all year, or since February. So, but in the month of June, I spent over 20 grand. So I was going to just chill out for the rest of the year and allow Bitcoin to kind of set in a longer bottoming formation before I start, adding to the long portfolio, the cold storage portfolio. And then the next day after the live stream, I realized that I had, to move a lot of capital. So I went ahead and bought another $3,000 worth of Bitcoin. Now I'm not going to buy any more Bitcoin for a while. Because I already own one cold storage wallet. And essentially I was just going to split that up between the kids. But I got 2 kids, so I might as well just get another cold storage, or I already had another cold storage, and just start building it up to what the first one is. And then I can just give one wallet to each kid, and then bam, bam. Done. Got a long way to go, though, on that second one. But I do want to make sure that I don't want to get, because I started buying at 67K. So I want to get that. I would love to get that average lower, but I know that's not going to happen unless Bitcoin is trading much lower than here. So far, the average is sitting at about 64-ish, maybe 65. But yeah, if Bitcoin's trading at like sub 40s or sub 50, like high 40s, that would go a long way into bringing that average down. Regardless of what So let me just say this, regardless of all the drama that's out there right now surrounding Bitcoin, regardless of any of it, right? All the risks, BIP 110, strategy, STRC, Sailor, quantum computing, you name it. If it's drama, if people are using it in thumbnails on YouTube and, trying to get clicks and views, all of that, regardless of that, to me, Bitcoin looks like it's bottomed or bottoming because it literally refuses to break down. Generally speaking, when you take out a yearly low, like just think about it this way. When Bitcoin was bearish early on in the year, Bitcoin had no freaking problems whatsoever of making fresh year lows. At one point, it was doing it every single day, making a fresh yearly low. So when something is really bearish, then it has no problem breaking down. Whereas what we're seeing now, Bitcoin is refusing. It ain't just, it's made 4 fresh yearly lows since February, and it's still trading at $60,000. That was February's low. That's my point. Like, even though we've taken that low out 4 times, it's still trading here. That doesn't seem like an asset that is extremely bearish to me. That seems like an asset that is literally experiencing sell-side exhaustion. Now, that doesn't mean it will go up because we're not seeing heavy demand, at least on the ETF fronts. As soon as I get filled on this trade, whether it's a stop loss or a take profit, we'll delve into some of these charts that I'm referring to, and I'll explain this a little bit greater in detail for you. I just want to get this scalp out of the way first. But yeah, it does not feel that weak out. It doesn't feel strong, but it's definitely not extremely bearish either. Now, it doesn't mean it can't get more bearish later on. We just may be at a price that sellers do not have conviction at. That is why it's refusing to break down. Because all of the sellers that are actually moving the market, the big money sellers, their conviction dries up at 58K. So either they're not looking for much lower targets, or they're just needing more time to build a larger position. We'll look at price, because that's what I'm good at, looking at price. And I'll explain it. All right. We just need Bitcoin to pop above make a fresh day high, and we should get filled on that take profit, and then everything will be good. And it does look, I see no reason why we can't do that right here. I see no reason at all why Bitcoin can't make a fresh day high. I would like for it to do that before 9:30 though, please. Thank you. I think Bitcoin will give a good signal when Bitcoin is strong with dollar strength. I think that could be a really good sign for Bitcoin. Yesterday we did see a lot of outflows in the ETFs. We saw almost 300 done yesterday. So that is typically consistent with heavy selling pressure. And Bitcoin was bullish all day yesterday with that heavy selling pressure. So we did get a fresh day high, but unfortunately it did not hit my take profit. So I might have to chase this a little bit. I don't want to. I'll give it another minute or two. It literally got right to my take profit. So this is just being really greedy now. Counting pennies, actually. But dollar is also advancing, making an advance back up to that weekly low. So I'm kind of concerned that we're not going to see a large breakout unless the dollar rolls back over. It looks good for a breakout and for an uptrend all day. In terms of the way price structure looks, but like I said, that can be faded at any point. It is still extremely weak out there. Might get a nice move higher today. That would be lovely. S&P 500 is literally also trading at the day high. We have DVOL, which is Bitcoin's VIX, is making fresh 3-day lows today and trading well under those lows. And VIX is currently at 1616, just shy of yesterday's low. Oil's down again today. So you have filled that gap on oil. When you got the war, when the war started, US-Iran, oil had a gap up. Pretty sizable gap up. That gap has been filled. We'll look at that. We'll look at everything. The volatility on SPCX is wild. Yeah, it's fantastic. Once the lockup ends on SPCX, should be interesting. Yeah, that's about 180 days out. Bitcoin could still easily bounce in July, then reject and bottom out. I mean, Bitcoin can do, like, the combinations of what price can do from here until the end of the year are endless. Bitcoin can make a fresh month high and then go back and make fresh yearly lows, or vice versa. Like, there's no, yeah. I mean, at that point, it can do anything, right? Can do literally anything. The Bitcoin that I've been buying all year has a much further out timeline. This is, like, Bitcoin will be nowhere near $60,000 in 5 to 10 years out, in my opinion. And it doesn't matter really which way. It can be much lower or it can be much higher. The point is, if it's much lower, I will no longer be in it. I will not lose the investment, the entire investment. The first wallet is so far into profit, even with a $60,000 Bitcoin, that I would have to let it go back down to like pandemic levels. And there's no way I would do that, obviously. But the first wallet would be a loss, or the second cold storage wallet would be a loss if it were to fall from here. But it's much smaller, the amount, so it's all good. All right, because the dollar is continuing to advance and Bitcoin is not, advancing, I'm just gonna drop that take profit a little bit. Instead of counting pennies, just go ahead and get that done. So we booked $200 worth of gains, and by taking the profits on it, we still have a full size, well, not quite a full size position size on it, but almost. I mean, this position size will make a decent return if Bitcoin trends up all day. But we're good to go. We want to make sure that the stop loss is the same size. It is. So there's no way we can lose money on this trade. Period. It's done. It's over with. And if we have an uptrending day, it'll make more. We'll be able to take profits on it again. So good. Got that out of the way. Let's go take a look at other things around the market here. Fartcoin, like I said, real good looking day here today. We were anticipating that it was going to roll over as Fartcoin was bouncing severe. It was well off the monthly lows. In fact, when you open July this month up, you were above the midpoint of June. So in terms of if Bitcoin was going to take out those lows and break down and put in another leg lower, then we wanted to be short Fartcoin because it had more juice to squeeze, essentially being up. However, it literally refuses to break down below the weekly open. That is a bullish sign. Generally speaking, with this price action here, this is your week open, I would not have been bearish. It was simply trying to catch the move lower on Bitcoin. And I'm not talking about the moving averages. I'm talking about just the fact that you stayed above the weekly open and put in clear and obvious support. Excuse me. So we should have been buying this. It was just hard to do that when you have a bullish dollar bias. You know what I mean? Put you like on the opposite side of your bias, which sometimes is the right thing to do, because you're not going to have the right bias every single week, day in and day out. You're going to be on the wrong side of the market occasionally. So I should have had everybody positioned or looking for the long. It wouldn't have mattered until today anyways, because today's the day that it broke out. But plenty of bullishness, or plenty of bullish pressure here for a trending day. So I would not be trying to sell it. You're literally above all the swings that we would have been looking to mitigate risk around if we had a short side bias. You put in a engulfing candle yesterday, a bearish engulfing. You should have seen downside continuation today. The fact that you put in a bullish engulfing today tells me that all the sellers are stuck. So now you could see an expansion even higher today. Now, I would definitely not be trying to short it because the sellers are stuck now. It could still work out. It's your money. Do what you want to do, obviously. But for me, there's no way I would be trying to short Fartcoin or any shitcoin today. Pingu, another shitcoin, also the same. Bullish aggression. You're working on a current breakout. You could almost be a Pingu or a Fartcoin long if you retest the midpoint of this candle and that holds a support, or if you get down to this candle's open and if that were to hold support. Now, obviously, if the sellers, they're going to want to see fresh lows. So if you're a seller and you're short, then if you make fresh 4-hour lows when the New York session opens, I think you would be safe. So for you, the price to beat and or your take profit level should be right there at like 62.09 if you're a seller. Taking a long up here is not recommended either, as Fartcoin is already up 12% on the day. We typically want to buy or sell Fartcoin when it's up or down, slightly under zeros, triple zeros. So to the upside, we can be a buyer on Fartcoin when Fartcoin is like up 1.5% or something like that. Generally speaking, you can buy it because you're still we know that Fartcoin can move up 5 to 10% inside of one day. So that still gives you enough percentage to aim for in terms of profit potential. And the same for being down, right? It can also be down 5 to 10% in a day. So you can look for shorts if you're down 0. or 1.2%, something like that. You can look to short pullbacks or buy pullbacks. When you're above 10%, either up or down, at any moment you could see a pullback. So you could literally be buying or selling the high or low of day at that point. So there is no setup. There is no setup. Bitcoin is also operating on the outskirts of what it's usually does, right? It usually operates inside of 3% on a daily range, whether it's 3% up or 3% down, give or take. This is an average. So you can see that Bitcoin is already up 3%. So me getting long up here is clearly not a good position. Doesn't mean it wouldn't work out or anything like that. It's just, generally speaking, you would not be wanting to get long when Bitcoin is up 2.5% already. Especially knowing that the average is about 3. There's only a 0.5% worth of profit potential left on the daily range. Now, obviously, you can exceed those numbers given volatility, momentum, volume, things like that. Bitcoin could be up 5, 10% by the end of the day. It's impossible to know what it would do. I'm just talking in terms of probabilities, because that's how we trade. We trade with probabilities. We want to be on the side where probabilities are highest for us to potentially make money. And looking for breakouts or breakdowns, typically not going to be the best way to do that. All right, let's get on and see if there is any setup. Zcash, excuse me, also ripping to the upside this morning. XMR doing the same thing. Here is your spiders. You can see how it traded up to the day high and is pulling back. You are right. Let's see. Yesterday you closed as a doji. So right here, about where daily res is on this is about where the expected range high for the day is. Or the week, sorry. The expected weekly range is up here. I can show you on this chart. This green line right here, this very small green line, that is your weekly expected move. I get these every Friday or Saturday, and I put them on the chart to kind of give me a range of what is expected given when the Friday candle closed from the previous week. So you're already up there. So you could see a pullback today from these levels. You could also see a breakout. Like I said, volatility on both Bitcoin and the S&P. Up top here, top left, that's the VIX. Bottom left, that's the Bitcoin VIX. Both of them are down. Now, this one isn't as easy of a signal because you're trading inside the prior day's range. So literally, the VIX could get down here. That could potentially be a buying opportunity on the VIX. But if it's trending below this low, at no point could you be a seller on the S&P, because you would have a breakout. You would be trying to sell a breakout, meaning you could get ran over. But as long as it's trading above this low, you can potentially be a seller on the S&P at support instead of a seller at resistance because of this structure. So everything is lining up for what could be a bullish day. Since the dollar is kind of stretched out here and at support, though, with the dollar having a more bullish daily structure, I would be more in line with probably being a seller, because I would be like wanting to buy the dollar here, generally speaking. Yeah, I mean, this is a very bullish technical structure. I don't like that we took out last week's low, because now you have that it could have been a trap scenario, and that still could play out. But as long as dollar is trading above 100.76, I would be a buyer. Probably not today. Obviously, it's already had quite a bit of momentum and volatility. You can see today's range, even though New York session hasn't even opened yet, is one of the biggest days that you've seen in the dollar since the FOMC. So basically, you've just retested the FOMC highs. So this will kind of tell us here, because that's your FOMC day. If price falls under that, then obviously people are thinking rate hikes are not on the table. As long as the dollar's trading above this, rate hikes are still potentially on the table. I don't think they will hike. I don't think they will be able to or will even want to. I think they're just trying to, I don't know what they're trying to do, to be honest with you, and I don't even care. I don't make my money by trying to predict what the Fed will do. I just allow the Fed to do what they're going to do and then position for it after. And as of right now, the current macro backdrop is to be long dollar. The BOJ is potentially what would ruin that trade. So I'll have to wait until I get the data that even suggests they did. I don't know that they did. That range definitely looks like they did, though, for sure. All right, so coming over here real quick, a couple things that I want you to be aware of in terms of for the longer term Bitcoin bulls out there. So far, the bears have the macro backdrop and they have the dollar in their corner. Obviously, if I wanted to be a Bitcoin bear, I would want to be a bear while the dollar is strong. But in terms of what do the bulls have, there are almost like 15 different on-chain analytic charts and like 12 bullish technical chart. There's so many like bullish indicators that are firing on Bitcoin right now. If you were wanting to participate in a Bitcoin bull market, you would have to be a buyer. You just would. But here is a really good signal. This signal has called every single Bitcoin bottom. And essentially what it is showing is that the majority of long-term holders, which is generally looked at as the more steady hands, the people that just will not sell, when they're underwater, so when their tokens or coins are in the red, and in the red by like 45%, that is generally when bottoms are formed. You can see right here that we are there. We are literally there. So every single time we've gotten here, every single time, it has called the bottom. Not it did it, it got down here and then blah, blah, blah. No, this has been where Bitcoin has bottomed historically throughout its entire life cycle. And then over here, we can see this crypto quant chart was being thrown around Twitter, or X, the last couple of days. It absolutely shows that there is demand for this asset, even though you are not seeing demand via ETF exchange flows. Now, it's important to be able to differentiate it's important to understand the differences between what ETF flows are versus, big money like banks and things of that nature. Retail flows are ETF flows. So you do have one big money managing firm that is literally going to use the ETFs to generate another ETF. They're going to essentially buy IBIT shares and then sell IBIT calls. Goldman Sachs is the firm that I'm referring to, and that's going to generate a new ETF. But anyways, the whole point is we are seeing big money absorb Bitcoin right now. So even though retail is selling the lows, you have big money coming in here, whales essentially absorbing all that selling pressure with this massive spike here. So there's two indicators that basically show you that. Here is another indicator. This is a long-term holder supply. The green line that I've essentially drawn out on this for you is to show you the all-time high of long-term holder supply. So as you can see here, once you breach an all-time high, which you can't really see here, you can only see the current cycle, but we can go out to the long-term holder chart. Where is it? I guess I need to, yeah, let's use this tab. There you go. So generally you can see that once you break out above prior highs, it is showing that you are essentially, so here was the all-time high, then you broke out above. The bottom didn't come far after, right? And then same for this. There's the all-time high. There's the breakout. You got one more bottom in that, and then that ended up being the bottom. Same over here. This one actually happened early. So this one is definitely different. But anyways, nonetheless, we have reached that all-time high in long-term holder supply. So this goes kind of along the narrative of anybody that wants to sell, or anybody that matters, for instance, has already done so. So now you have the people in essentially that aren't going to be selling. And we only expect this to continue to go up. So that another really bullish factor. There are many more. I'm not a non-chain analyst, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but there are many more like this. There are so many, literally. And then this is currently what we got going on with the ETF exchange flows. And then if we go actually look at that today, you'll see that yesterday was, I don't know if it'll show up on this. Here, let me just go to this. I thought I had that up as I do right there. So right here, you can see this is yesterday's data. So anything above 250 is generally looked at as heavy selling pressure. Anything above 250. So here was a day of heavy selling pressure, heavy. Then you got a little bit lighter. Yesterday, another heavy selling pressure day. But yet, even though you experienced heavy sell side pressure on Bitcoin yesterday, you can kind of see what's going on here today. And then if we go into yesterday, you can see exactly how that day transpired. So retail is up here selling the highs. Retail is up here selling the highs again. And Bitcoin is essentially just going up. These are good signs. It doesn't mean that the bottoms are in. There's nothing that I can look at and show you that will be like the low is in, right? There's nothing like that exists. If it existed, it would be the best kept secret in the world. If there was a chart that showed absolute bottoms or absolute tops, it would be the biggest secret on the planet. So I wouldn't be aware of it anyway. I'm just letting you know that's not how investing works anyway. The higher probable scenario is that the near term, the lows are in. Most likely you will be sideways for the rest of the year with an occasional lower low. Like, that's essentially what you've been doing here. Here's your February low right there. That February low is so important because it's Q1 2026. We just started Q3 for 2026. Now, there's still half of a year to go, obviously, but the evidence is obvious. Q1 or H1 of 2026 was extremely bearish. Q4 of 2025, extremely bearish. But even though you were extremely bearish, that February low, even though it was annihilated 3 different times, and these are weekly swing lows, you actually demolished that low 4 times on the daily chart. So you've made fresh yearly lows 4 times since this low was made. And yet you're trading above that low. That speaks to potential exhaustion. Doesn't mean that it is exhausted. It just speaks to the potential for it. At any time, a black swan event could happen and Bitcoin could dump. Anything that would cause the stronger hands to sell, that would force or essentially make brand new lows. And then my favorite indicator, the RSI, you are printing bullish divergence here, have been though since this week. So when this week took out that low and closed lower than your lowest weekly close, which up until this point was this candle here. So you have it in spades, bullish divergence. You've had bullish divergence on the weekly chart for 4 weeks now. And the fact that Bitcoin is not like boom, puking, you can see where I'm going right there, right? It speaks to exhaustion. Yeah, it speaks to exhaustion. So clearly people are buying. Big money is buying. They're just doing it in a way to where it's not causing any rippling effects. That's good. That's really good, because when Bitcoin starts breaking out and making fresh highs and things like that, the squeezes could potentially be bigger. So we'll see. But I mean, being a heavy set, listen, I am not a permabull on Bitcoin. I am not a BIP 110er. I'm not sporting BIP 110 in my name or anything like that, right? I am not an uber Bitcoin bull. I like Bitcoin for what it has the potential to be, but I am a trader. Like, Bitcoin permabulls despise people like me. I would be bearish Bitcoin if the probabilities were better to be bearish Bitcoin. I wouldn't be talking about the bullish side of Bitcoin. It's just that simple. I like to make money. I have to make money in order to live every single day. I got bills like everybody else. Those bills come every single month. So I must make money. But I'm not trying to, like, you can love or hate Bitcoin. It doesn't matter to me. Just in terms of probabilities, right? In terms of where's this thing going, most likely you might get some new lows, but that's about it. I mean, unless a black swan event happens, we are seeing actual objective data that says there's a really good chance that the lows are freaking in. All right. You can believe me or don't. It doesn't matter. I'm just giving you the option to make your own decisions. Right. So I don't want people to think that, oh, he's just another Bitcoin bull, because I'm not. I don't care. I will short it all the way to zero. I'm fine with that. I am okay with it. But anyways, so yeah, you've got bullish divergence on the weekly. You've had it for 4 weeks. You've got bullish divergence on the 3-day. You just made a second drive of that here. So bullish divergence. From here to here is bullish divergence. And then from here to here is also bullish divergence. Does divergence always work? Does it always mark the bottom? No. But does it do it often? Yes. What are the higher probabilities? The higher probabilities are you're probably done going lower for at least a couple of weeks. At least for the month of July, potentially. And what else? Well, that's enough. I don't want to beat this horse all day long. It doesn't even matter what I think. I trade what price does, right? I use price is king for me. So whatever price is doing, that generally is going to dictate my bias. I am usually a bear when the daily time frame is under the 21 exponential. Not a heavy bear, but willing to look for shorts, right? You put in 2 tests of it here. You did get an expansion lower, but where did that expansion stop? Literally at the lows. You could not trend under this, right? Now, here you are retesting that again. With my experience, it seems as if, though, Bitcoin is having trouble going lower at a bare minimum. We'll say that. You still haven't reclaimed June's VWAP, but for the month of July, you're well above it. But we just opened the month of July yesterday, so that's not a really good signal either. But you do have the 21 coming up here shortly. Now for the bearish side, like I said, this right here. As long as the dollar is above 100.57, I think dollar's going higher. Kevin Warsh has already come out and said that they have a 2% target that they want to hit on the inflation data. They don't want 3, they don't want 3.4, they don't want 2.8. He made that abundantly clear. 2% is our target. That is hawkish. The fact that only one Fed member on the last Fed meeting was willing to put down that they thought we should cut, everybody else said either hold or hike. That is also hawkish. Hawkish Fed, lower inflation, that is typically bullish for the dollar. But like I said, there is one caveat with this. It's not a guaranteed victory trade. Like if you went out and if you knew for a fact that the dollar was going to go up higher, then you could go literally leverage that to the max, right? Well, we don't know that because there is one factor, and that is the BOJ. They are essentially selling dollars to buy yen. They are trying to prop up their own currency. So they're in a pickle. They could extinguish the bid on the dollar for several weeks. The last time the BOJ intervened was in July of 2024, right? July of 2024. That's right here. So that's the last time the BOJ intervened. And look what it did to the dollar. It absolutely annihilated it for several weeks. This is a weekly chart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You get the point, right? So even though this is a very crowded upside trade, and even though I have upside targets of 104, as long as it's above the breakout point. Once you get back below the breakout point, then you're back inside the range. Once you're back inside the range, no analysis is going to work. No technical analysis anyways. You can still have a macro analysis and all that stuff to be looking for dollar longs, but there isn't any clear-cut signals. Right now, the dollar is still bullish. I am bullish on the dollar. I think the dollar will continue to go higher. And as long as the dollar is bullish and continuing to go higher, that isn't bullish for Bitcoin unless Bitcoin is stronger. So there are a lot of reasons to be bullish Bitcoin. There are only a few reasons to be bearish Bitcoin, is basically what this boils down to. Right? There are a lot of reasons to be looking to be a buyer, only a few reasons to be looking to be a seller. I don't really think there are any reasons to be looking to be a seller this low in the range. I just don't. I think it's not a high probable scenario. Even if you were right, even if you shorted today's high and got a lower low, that still is not like a very optimal trade. You're looking at a potential of 7% maybe before the downside is extinguished again. Whereas upside, it's unlimited. The upside potential is unlimited. So, yeah, tough stuff. It's never easy, but right now conditions are a little bit tougher. It's not tougher for me long term on buying Bitcoin because I think in 5 years, regardless of what's happening in 2026, I think Bitcoin will be more expensive than $60,000. That's my own opinion, and that's the reason I'm buying it. But in terms of looking for shorts, I would rather short Fartcoin or something that has a little bit more juice on the squeeze. Because for Fartcoin to make new lows, what do we got? 35% of potential there. So there's plenty of potential for that. Unfortunately, Fartcoin has completely and totally changed the structure of no longer being. It's still bearish because you're still bearish on the weekly, but the daily has literally flipped that. So I am looking for a short again, just maybe slightly higher. But I don't know. I mean, if you reclaim the 50 and continue to hold the 50 for several days, it's going to feel like there's going to be upside legs even higher. So I won't know exactly where that perfect selling opportunity will be until we get there, I guess. But as of right now, you're almost testing the monthly open. That'll be a first area to start looking for resistance to show up. I don't know if it will, but we'll find out. The market has opened, and so far, they're not really doing anything. So I think there is potential for oil to also potentially bounce from here, as it is pretty oversold at this point and has been oversold for quite some time. I think you're probably going to see a bounce on oil soon. I don't know that I could buy it yet. I might need to give it some time before I decide to put a long energy position on. But we'll keep our eyes on it. If at any point it starts making higher daily highs, then we might start looking for upside scalps on oil. But if it's going to be a very small move, like put in small daily ranges to the upside, I wouldn't even really care about it. Oil needs to be moving more than 2% on a daily basis for me to even get remotely interested in it. And there's that whole China is potentially going to squash the paper market. So that means that if you are a Chinese citizen, you are no longer going to be able to trade gold futures or any paper contracts at all. They're going to kill the paper market. This could artificially inflate. It wouldn't necessarily be artificially inflating either. I mean, they're just taking a lot of potential supply out of the market. They think that the price of gold and silver are both being suppressed by the paper market. So by making it illegal for anybody to trade it, they think that would be enough to elevate gold and silver prices. So if the dollar does reject the highs and start to fall back into that range, I would probably be back to being bullish gold and silver. It's going to have a lot to do with the dollar, but I also need to find out when that's supposedly going to be like put into law. It may have already been. I don't know. I need to look into it a little bit. But you can see 3 days here, silver's pulling back. We figured that silver and gold were probably done going lower, at least on the near term. If they're not going to like make that law anytime this year, I would still have a sell side bias on it higher up in here. But if it's going to happen this year, I would probably be a buyer. Like almost willing to even buy bullion at these prices. Because longer term, how is that going to affect the market? I think it would absolutely be bullish, but I could be wrong, right? I could be wrong. Maybe the Chinese paper market isn't big enough to suppress gold and silver prices. I don't know. I think it is, but we'll see. Also, I think China's trying to move to where they actually have a different price than the rest of the world on gold and yada yada. So obviously that would affect things too. But I think as long as you have dollar strength, you got to be very cautiously bullish gold and silver. But if at any point you see an inverse correlation, then obviously you could be a little bit more bullish. But nonetheless, regardless of what's going to happen with China, I kind of felt like these would be the near-term lows for a little while. I still feel like that, even though dollar was breaking out last week. I think you need some time for the indicators to chill out here. It was pretty oversold. We'll see what price does once it gets back to the levels that we're interested in. First place we're going to be interested in is up here on a 50 on the RSI, which you can see you're still well away from that. So not today, or probably even early next week. It would be later next week, or even the week after that. Then we'll revisit the idea of potentially being a seller on silver, because silver moves more than gold. So we like trading silver better, but obviously gold is the better investment long term. Silver is used as used in a lot of silver is a good long term investment too. I just don't know that it is at $61 an ounce. Right? Because I bought silver at 20, sold it 40, 50, 60. So literally it's still trading at prices where I was taking profits on the bullion I already owned. And I still own a large amount of it. Same with gold, right? So I don't know that I want to be a bullion buyer of silver at these prices, but I could almost justify being a bullion buyer of gold at its prices, because gold is more of an inflation hedge, more of a long-term financial, like it's just more widely known as a long-term investment. Because silver is used in so many different ways. I think silver has too many people out there that want to keep the prices down. Whereas gold, not so much, right? Not so much. But they do trade very closely correlated usually. So we'll see what happens with it. But I mean, $4,000 an ounce of gold still seems high to me, obviously. But I mean, if China, if they can influence the prices by doing that, that might be something to look out for. Longer term holds, $4,000 might be okay. I don't think it's enough time. I don't think this pullback has been long enough for me to look at this chart and say a floor has been established. Usually, I mean, you're not going to see that on a monthly anyways, but I want to see a longer term consolidation before I start becoming a heavy bullion buyer of gold. I want to see a longer term support, right? A long term sideways market. We may not get that though, because they're still heavily buying gold. China is. If China is, then other central banks are. They are still buying. So some people, some analysts still have much higher prices for gold. And I would assume they are buying it here. I don't know that I could justify buying it. I can definitely justify trading it though, for sure. But we'll see if a bottom is in, or at least a near-term bottom is in here on gold and silver as well. Let's see what SpaceX is doing today. It didn't even get up to yesterday's midpoint before the sellers came back in and started hammering it already. Yeah, I think SpaceX, it looks like it wants to break down. To me, it is definitely being sold more than it is being bought. Yeah, I don't have a setup on SpaceX here. The only setup I really had today was on Bitcoin, and it was to be long, and I just didn't like being long at the top of the range, unfortunately. But we did take it anyways, and it did make money, so good to go. I just think at some point it's probably going to pull back. It's probably going to pull back aggressively too, as long as the dollar is above last week's low, which as of right now, it's kind of potentially putting that bottom in. So is there a trade on Forex? Let's go see. If we thought that the dollar was putting in a bottom here, could we be a seller on pound dollar? Yeah, we could. Let me see here if there's a setup. Yeah, yep. Allow this to liquidate, or start building in resistance here. It might not be today. There's a lot of bullish momentum in here today. You've already liquidated the highs. So technically speaking, you don't need to wait for a liquidation, but it is extremely volatile today. Where's the open? Right here. How much is this thing up? Yeah, it's almost up a full %. That's a little bit higher than what it does on average. I don't know that it would be on the near term though, because last few weeks have been, I don't know. Let's see. Oh, Okay. Oh, I don't even have the average true range on the chart. Let me see here real quick. And naturally, it's up a little bit today. So it looks like 0.8 is where it is. Let's see where that is in terms of the daily range. Yeah, it's extended today. Slightly extended today. 200-day exponential, though, it's a really good place to potentially look for shorts. So I'll use that. I wish it was a high or a low, though. Instead, it's just an open. It's potentially a 3-day supply zone. So if at any point it starts to act as resistance today, I might be willing to go ahead and put a short on to see if it holds. But it's kind of a risky trade because there is so much selling pressure on the DXY today. That could keep it potentially going down. I think you're probably going to see it chop around here for the rest of the day. I don't think you're going to see a massive down day, but I could absolutely be wrong. If it refuses to put in even a lower low, I could potentially put that sell on pound right now. There's 13 minutes left on this candle. So that means we would have to fire that sell trade off like literally right now. So let me try that. I'm going to hit the sell button on the, I mean, it looks like it wants to go higher on the very small time frame chart. All right, I'm going to sell it and then give myself, I think a 25 pip stop loss would be way too small on this right now because it's got so much momentum. Yeah, 25 pips is only going to give you a stop loss up to 1.34. And that means you would be looking for a 50 pip move to the downside for potential profits. So right about there. Maybe wait on it to stop making higher highs. You know what I mean? As of right now, I mean, it's clearly moving up. Has the dollar made a lower low? 706. 705 it has. All right, so never mind. You got a lower low on the 30-minute. Maybe wait for the dollar to start building in higher lows before you put that pound dollar short on. It's crazy selling pressure on the dollar today. And it's got to be USD JPY. It just has to be. S&P 500 broke out and is trending. This is what I kind of figured would happen today. So right here is where it was during non-farm payrolls. This is the 9:30 open. Big move higher. I don't see any reason for that to stop. I would be a buyer. Not right up here, but this morning I would have been a buyer. I was a buyer on Bitcoin. I was going to be a buyer on risk. But they may be coming close to the top. We'll see. I have not closed out my Euro shorts or my US dollar Swissy longs yet. And the reason is because I've already taken profits on those trades and I'm just getting paid every day to hold them open. So there's no point for me to close them. So I'm going to leave them open until they either get stopped out or until they get stopped out, I guess. I haven't moved a trailing stop or anything like that yet. I probably won't do that for another at least month. If it, we'll see. Because I definitely got to see what the dollar's thinking here. I do not like that it's breaking down like this. This looks like a swing high failure pattern. I'm hoping it's just a pullback to support. Not really hoping, don't really care either way, right? Because I can just as easily get bearish on the dollar as easily as I can be bullish on the dollar. The bullish trade would be easier because the macro right now is more bullish. But if price is bearish, even with a bullish macro, then I would be bearish because of price. Price is king. Most people say price don't matter. I disagree. Because I'm a directionally biased trader, it is everything. It determines who wins and who loses. So it's everything. I think they say that just like overall in general because it's impossible to predict what it's going to do. But I found out, I've found out over years of doing this successfully, you don't need to be able to predict what it's going to do. You just need to be able to mitigate risk. As long as you can do that and have a 50% hit rate, you're going to make money. So you can literally throw darts at a dartboard and win money. It's been proven. So yeah, that's why price is king. All right. Let's see. Any questions as of right now? I haven't really been watching the questions. Let me read them real quick. Good morning. Good morning. Read that. Everyone wants or / expects 40 and 30. Can't have that. Well, I mean, they want it because most likely they missed the first massive down move. So now that they've been listening to YouTubers and reading X posts from so many bears, they're bearish now, right? So that's why they want it. The people that have been bearish or the people that have already made money in the bear market, they're done being bearish. You know what I mean? Or not done being bearish, but like don't care if you get lower targets or not. It's just icing on the proverbial cake. Like for me, I've made money all year, right? So I don't care which way it goes. They're in the same boat. So anybody that's beating the table on 20 or 30K Bitcoin, it's probably because they lost money and they need 20 or 30K Bitcoin in order to make money. I can't see any other reason to be that bearish on Bitcoin. Literally. Sailor's a massive risk. Quantum computing is a massive risk. But are either one of these things going to cause Bitcoin to spin out this year? The answer is no. Objectively, no. So, Sailor's covered for 26 months. He can pay dividends. He's not going to be a risk or an existential risk unless he sells or is forced to sell. The only way he would be forced to sell is if a judge made it mandatory. So he's not an existential risk. Not in the next several months anyways. He's also put in to be able to sell $1.8 billion worth of Bitcoin. He hasn't sold that $1.8 billion worth of Bitcoin yet, but that gives him even more time. Let's look at STRC. What's it doing today? Imagine that. It's right back up to 90. So all the people that were, when, STRC was at 73 looking for STRC to unwind the Bitcoin market, it's back up to the bottom side of where it was supposed to be. He did raise the dividend by 0.25% or whatever. It's up to 12, I think, now. So clearly people bought it because of that. Now, if he lowers the dividend, that could be dramatically bad as well. But these are things that are most likely not going to happen. So you got to just separate the people who are looking at probabilities and then the people who are just, Bitcoin's going lower because I want it to. That's not a legitimate reason to make an investment decision. Because you want it to go lower doesn't mean, or because you have lower targets doesn't mean that you're on the right side of this. That's what the whole game boils down to. But I mean, yeah, just be careful. There's perma bulls and perma bears out there. They'll never be bullish, like, ever, no matter what. And then there are same for the bulls. They'll never be bearish, no matter what. But just like, try to find objective data and then weigh it. You know what I mean? Throw it on this scale for the bearish call, and then get all the objective data for the bullish calls and see, which one is bigger. For me, it's much more bullish than bearish right now. Because of like if there are so many reasons to be a buyer right now. But there are still reasons to be bearish. There's just not as many. Could this be a pullback? Could it continue lower? It could. But until that's actually happening, it's just smoke and mirrors. It's just smoke and mirrors. I doubt you get it back down at 72 this year. Maybe in the next existential risk. But now, no, it ain't going. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not buying it. It's too risky. But other people love it. Other people love it. We'll see what it does. And I think bearish calls also get a lot more eyes on. That also has a huge reason why so many more people are bearish than bullish. People like, that kind of stuff. Engagement. They'll say anything that brings the engagement. But yeah, I don't know. We're traders, so it doesn't matter to us. Volatility has hit a new daily low on Durabit, $40.24. You are testing or almost testing the 21 EMA, so there is potential for a pullback here. You can also see it's the last daily swing high until 63. We were looking yesterday, let me just say, yesterday the Trade Talk community was discussing liquidity. For instance, where is it? Right here. We were looking at a month, and there was still quite a bit of liquidity setting under 50K. So it had a few, Trade Talk community members bearish, looking for sub $50,000 prices. But these things are different. Each one of them. There are 3 of these. Let me go back to that so I can show you. So there are 3 different liquidation heat maps here. And they were specifically looking out 1 month. If you go to liquidation heat map number 1 and look out a month, I might need to sign in. We'll see. So yesterday, prices were lower. Obviously, they were down here. There is not much liquidity out there on this one. There's a little bit, but it's not down at 50K. It's right at about 57K. So it's heat map model 2 that shows more liquidity out there on the 1 month time frame. I don't know why this is taking so long. What is that? Oh, yeah. So that's number 2, showing all that liquidity down at 50K. We go into heat map model number 3 and look at 1 month out. See if it's even relatively similar to the other 2. I don't know how they derive this data, first and foremost. They have absolutely zero liquidity at 50K. So you can see how there's just because these 3 things, which are all the same thing, 3 different models, all the same time frame, all have different data. I wouldn't use this to kind of give myself a huge bias, right? Especially knowing that it's hit or miss at best. The thing that I like looking at the best is the liquidation map, not the liquidation heat map, just the liquidation map. And I like to go out a year, but I will look at monthly, quarterly data as well. But the other day when we were looking at this, when Bitcoin was sub 60K, when this red dotted line was over here, we saw this big liquidity spike sitting at 58.1. So essentially I said if Bitcoin could drop down to roughly 57-ish, I would probably be looking for a reversal there. Just going by this info. This red line was also much, much lower on that day. I'll prove it. As it's just right here. Open media link. Right there. So there you go. This is a line that I put on the chart. Just simply stating, I could probably look how low it is. There's no liquidity any like down there. And then just look how the skew is so jacked up. You see that? Like if you're an options trader, you're looking at this thinking, well, this thing is probably going back at least to 65 before it ever goes to 55. Just looking at this. Now, here's the difference, though. Or in a highly volatile market, you can't look at these things. Because when forced selling is happening, or fearful selling, right? People are selling because they're afraid, seriously afraid. Then this will keep going down even if there is zero liquidity under it. It's not, because at that point price is being driven by fearful selling. It's not being driven by, liquidity hunts or whatever it is that people want to look at liquidity for, right? When the market isn't extremely volatile, though, the market does liquidate swing highs and swing low. We can see that clearly. I would argue that now that the fear selling is gone, this is a better indicator to look at now. And because that is mostly a fact, How could you have lower targets looking at this? I mean, it's so jacked up to the upside. I would be so afraid that eventually it's going to go up just because of exhaustion. That is exactly what exhaustion is. So you can see it's already working today. As this was yesterday, this is today. It's already backed off. You've already popped this line back up. So it's already heading back to the upside. Like, that was an easy call to make. It's still not a great long because the chart is still extremely bearish. So there's been several times that I've been looking at information like this and data like this and then take the opposite side of the trend and get stopped out, and then go back in hindsight and look at the chart and then just say, if I would have just stayed bearish, I would have been in better shape. I would have been better off because the chart was bearish. So that's kind of the scenario we have right now, where all the probabilities are leaning more for an upside spike than a downside plunge right now, in my opinion. And now we're getting an upside spike. So, I mean, is it big? Is that enough before the sellers show back up again? Only time will tell. Only time will tell. We'll see. Are the sellers willing to come down to 61.8 or not? If we look at the 4-hour chart, we haven't flipped this bullish yet. This isn't even close to flipping bullish yet. It is still extremely bearish. So the next really good place to look for sells on Bitcoin is going to be right up in here, according to this chart. But if we go look at little old fart coin and do the same thing, it is literally flipping bullish right now. That's the same trade that I just showed you on Bitcoin. This is why we were bearish on Fartcoin yesterday and the day before, because it looked like it was going to break back down. And there were tradable events. This move and that wick was big enough to take profits. And then if you sold here or here, this move right here was big enough move lower to take profits. So there still was two very scalpable, very profitable trades in this before it finally broke out. Only time will tell if this is going to have legs, though. Because even though it's breaking out and now it looks like you should be bullish, this could absolutely roll right back over and drop. It could absolutely do something like that in the future. That's the good thing about a 200. It's going to take a lot of time to shift this indicator around. So right now we're going to stop selling Fartcoin, or at least stop trying to sell highs, and we'll wait for obvious resistance before we start looking for another short opportunity on it. The better signal would be wait for it to drop back down into this range, allow it to form the top side of the range, and then sell there. But as of right now, it looks like it's breaking out and it wants to go higher. So you're going to have to chill on being a seller for right now. So the next good, decent short on Bitcoin is going to probably be in between 63.8 and 66.2. Somewhere in this area. And then just allow it to build the range. And then look to be a seller on the highs. not the lows. Take profits when you get the moves lower, because it can go right back up to the top of the range and do something like this, right? So you're going to have to be scalping it still, but be the next decent place to look for shorts on Bitcoin. What's up, buddy? My cat's in here and he wants to have a word. Yeah, so right now there's just not a lot of stuff to do here on Bitcoin. Ride out the long if you're in it. I'm still in it, but it isn't really going anywhere. This is because, like I said, the dollar's pretty extended already. I don't think you're going to see much more downside on it today. You could, but the market's been open for almost an hour and you're not really seeing a trending move yet. All right, you still haven't taken out the news wick. So it's still building in lower lows, though, so buying it right now is going to be very aggressive. But if it stops doing that, I would be more prone to being a dollar bull. Absolutely. And I could even be a dollar bull today if it stops going down today. But we'll give it time. We'll let it suss out what it wants to do here. Right now it's structured or poised for the breakdown. So be careful buying it today. This could last all day, where you just get this slow grind where you keep trying to buy these wick lows and then it comes right back down and stops you out, but then goes back up. This is what you don't want to get involved with. If it's doing this, simply because it can come right back and get you again. You don't want to get chopped up. Don't get chopped up. That's all. All right. Good morning, Heath. Could you have a look at UHS, Universal Health Services? My wife works for the company and asked me if she should buy the stock. Well, I'm not going to tell you whether or not she should buy the stock, but I can definitely take a look at it. I can make a good argument for me looking to be a buyer of healthcare stocks, but not all of them. There are going to be winners and losers in every category or every sector, so to speak. Oh, what was that? What happened? Right now, I don't love this chart. It looks like it may be putting in a bottom, but I mean, it is still very bearish. You've got a 5-week period here where it kind of bottomed out. You're seeing a near-term short squeeze. If it could retest like 145 and hold as support, maybe. Yeah, I really don't know. I don't love it. It's in the midst of a trending move right now. Looks like it probably bounced off of the 100 month. But I mean, I would just simply say if it can no longer close monthly candles back under 146, maybe I could put on some risk there with a stop under like 139. But healthcare sector is probably going to do pretty good if you see capital rotations out of AI for whatever reason. Hang on. I don't think you're seeing that yet. Yeah, you're not seeing that yet. And then XLV was looking like it wanted to break out. Yeah, it's breaking out. So it does look like you're seeing capital rotations into healthcare right now. So maybe that's why her stock is doing good this week. So maybe, yeah, maybe just make sure you mitigate the risk. Don't just buy it, and I wouldn't buy it without a stop loss in the market. I would definitely have a I want to get out point if it gets lower than such and such price. But I think the healthcare sector looks like it's breaking out here, and I see no reason for it to stop. This is a long-term breakout. You could see a couple of months of upside continuation out of this. The XLF, I thought financials would have some problems because of rates not going down, and I guess not. They like it. So far, it's breaking out too. It's not breaking out of all-time highs, but I mean, it's breaking out of the prior 2-week swing high. Yeah, it's doing the exact opposite that I thought it would do. Big move higher based on dollar weakness yesterday and dollar weakness today. If dollar firms back up again, I would be willing to potentially look for another short on XLF, but I would do that by buying an in-the-money put or an at-the-money put. I wouldn't be going way out of the money or anything like that. But it's all going to determine on what the dollar does moving forward. I think this is going to be a buy the dip opportunity on the dollar. We'll find out next week. It'll be very simple to not get ran over by the dollar next week, because you're going to have an obvious place to stop being a bull on the dollar next week. And that will be this week's low. If at any point you're trading under this week's low next week, you can't be a buyer because it's trending down. So that will be the level of risk to watch on the dollar next week. This week's low. The dollar stops trending under this next week, I'd be long right there. Today, they've got enough momentum to continue to push this lower, so this might not end up being the weekly low today. It's just because momentum, volatility, that'll dry up maybe going into next week. So we'll see. Not really helping Bitcoin that much today. Everybody's probably, which I just needed to refresh, it is up. The trade is up to back up to 155 worth of profits. 165 now. So yeah, I mean, it looks good. Looks okay. I would say after noon today, liquidity will dry up because it's the 4th of July. And that's a big holiday for the US. Fireworks are already going off at my house. I'm not setting them up. Other people are. It's already started. Like, this is a big holiday for the US. Joy Affairs, you're going to try a short on Tesla again. You did good. It actually worked today. Same level. It failed at the same level. The monthly open. Take profits now if you're still in it. It's a 4% move. It's a decent trade. Plan B is calling sub 52K, but also a range of 50 to 500K this cycle. My goodness. Yeah, that's all it is. It is clickbait. It's You've nailed that right on the head. That's all that garbage is. It is clickbait. There is, in my opinion, no way possible Bitcoin hits 500K. Well, maybe this cycle, right? In 4 years, is it possible? Yeah, it absolutely is possible. If Bitcoin has a supply shock, for instance, if the supply is locked up and you see an ass load of demand come into Bitcoin, it can absolutely rock and roll. I don't put a limit on upside breaks ever on any asset. The sky's the limit on an upside. When something is super bullish, it can go way higher than you think it can. 52K isn't out of the realm of possibility either by the end of the year. So I just kind of misread it. I guess that wouldn't be that much of clickbait. But yeah, anytime you see random outrageous things, like anybody thinking about 500K this quarter or this year, no. Bitcoin is most likely going to be choppy and range bound for the majority of the year. You won't see 4-year cycle buyers start showing up until November, December. I guarantee you banks are front running that though, or anybody that wants to get involved in Bitcoin, which all the banks have. Like Goldman Sachs said in 2001, they would never, ever have anything to do with Bitcoin. Now in 2026, they're buying it and, building products around it. So that's a huge shift, and that happened in 4 years. So they are definitely looking to participate in the next cycle. And you can say that about BlackRock. You can say that about a lot of them, all of them, almost now. A lot of things happening this year for Bitcoin, and it is, in my opinion, a very good buying opportunity. That's why I've been buying it. I think it's going to do good. Nice trade on Tesla. I probably should have looked at it, but I didn't. I wouldn't have been a seller on it today because of the dollar, but like I said, that just goes to show that every day things can change. It's been very bullish all week. It makes sense that it's pulling back today. I wouldn't be looking for much more downside than what you've already got here. But yeah, this is an aggressive pullback because of how bullish it was. You had a real big bullish day Monday, and then Tuesday and Wednesday was just stopping out leftover shorts. And today you got that one final stop run, and now you see that vicious pullback. Makes sense that it's pulling back. I mean, it's going to pull back potentially and test the midpoint of this week's range. You're not quite there, but almost. I wonder what's going on. My internet was doing really good when I first logged on this morning. Now it's like lagged up. So I might take AT&T's offer, get on cable. I don't even see. There it is. Yeah, I was doing just fine this morning. I don't know why it's struggling now, but it might not even be my internet. It could just simply be the TradingView platform, as sometimes it's sluggish for no reason at all. Not always, but sometimes. Thanks, Heath. Have a great day. You too. What politics saying out in the same bin as what my dog leaving on the wall? Yeah, I think I got what you're saying. 24E is the date for China gold market. Well, there's no way to put 100% probability on any trade or on any price target. So you already know that's horseshit or dog snot, whatever you want to call it. It's the same. It's garbage. It's just a clickbait title. Like you said, there's no way to put a 100% probability on any price target or any trade. It's impossible. You can get high probabilities in the 90s in terms of percent, but you will never find a 100% probabilistic trade. When it comes to targets, it's going to be based on the option chain. So if your target has a 4 or a 5 delta, you're so far out of probabilities, it's not even worth it. It's not, most likely it's not going to work, right? The delta doesn't necessarily give you the percentage of probability though, but it'll be close. So like if it's a 4 delta, it's probably going to be really close to a 4% chance of probability. So that's one way of looking where high probable price targets are. It's always going to be associated with time, as that's what the options market uses to dictate pricing mechanisms. Time, volatility, expiration, volatility. You got Greeks, and the Greeks are what they use to calculate those probabilities. Which is why, like, when people were saying a few weeks ago that they think 30K Bitcoin will happen by this summer, if I was a market maker, I would do that trade with them. And I would sell them as many puts as they wanted to buy. Because that had a delta of like 4. That means there is a 4% chance that price target gets hit in that given time frame. I would always take that trade every single time. But that just goes to show you like how some people put probabilities on price targets when we could look at it. If he's saying, before, so like if he's saying 52K before 500K, that's a 4-year range. So if I go look at an options chain right now and go out 4 years and look at the 52K, I'd say the probabilities of that getting hit are high, not low. But the 500K target, obviously the probabilities are going to be much lower on that one, but still possible, just very unlikely. Would probably have a very, very, very small delta. We can look. We just need to go to Durbit's option chain. As they do have, or they're the only company that I'm aware of that has an options chain on Bitcoin specifically. Now, iBit has options on it too, but we're on Bitcoin. You can't even go out further than June 27, so never mind. But just going out to June 27, all you have to do is look at the 56K expiration or the strike, and then go to Delta, which is right here, and it's 30. So you could look at that and say there's like a 30% probability. It won't be exact, but it'll be close, like give or take, right? Anywhere between 35 and 25% probability that strike gets hit. And that's only going out to June 2027. Going out 4 years, that's going to make this delta go up significantly. That's just 1 year. And a cycle lasts 4 years on Bitcoin. This cycle is about to end, though. Right? This cycle, hypothetically, should be dead by Jan 2027. The next cycle is more probabilistic. But this cycle, 52K, there is a 20% chance that happens. So still low in terms of probabilistically, but very probable, like possible. But still low. And that's going out to the end of the year, to the end of this cycle. So I was talking about 4-year cycles when last video I put out a video with like a 1,000-day strategy or whatever, that if you would have been deploying that on Bitcoin, you would have essentially stayed out of all the bear markets. You wouldn't have stayed out of all the downside. Obviously, there was a pandemic that happened. So there's some outliers and stuff like that can happen. But if you just buy 500 days before the halving and then sell 500 days after the halving, you're essentially sitting in a position for 1,000 days. That would put you buying in November of this year. And then selling 500 days after the halving, you will be getting out at the top. So you could try that this year or this time around. Just do it with an amount of money that you can afford to lose, and all will be good. Don't do it with your life savings. You know what I mean? Don't do it with your entire portfolio. Yeah. That has historically outperformed every strategy almost on Bitcoin. Just buy 500 days pre-halving, sell 500 days after the halving, and you're good to go. Good to go. Bitcoin's pulling back. Seeing some selling pressure show up here on Bitcoin now. I'm not seeing that in terms of aggression, though. Chances are it's going to lock up and be sideways for the rest of the day, so we're just going to wrap it up. If there's no other questions, I'll give y'all a second to put some questions in the chat, but we're pretty much done. Made a cool quick $200 today using the news. Not bad. Those are always good days. I think it's going to be sideways because I don't think you're going to see much further downside on the dollar. I think it's going to back off. It's already starting to back off. You know what I mean? This is going to be a very strong buying area for some investors / traders. They are definitely going to be looking to put upside risk on here. And I don't blame them because of the macro backdrop. Pound, it liquidated the day high and then bounced again. So when you have things like that happening, it's very difficult to put risk on and hold it. But it's starting to pull back now. Just when you have that much momentum and volatility in it, it can carry the day. Unless you see volume completely shifting. We can look at FXCM and see if that's happening. Yeah, you could make the argument that that is happening. You are seeing seller aggression. You had buying aggression happening when the news came out, and since the news came out, the sellers have been the aggressors. Hence why you're not really trending to the upside any longer. I don't know if that's like that everywhere and on every exchange. This indicator will be different. It just depends on the exchange you're looking at. Forex.com does not offer up volume. Well, here in Oanda, it's the same as FXCM. Let's look at Capital.com. They're a big broker exchange in the Forex market over in Europe. Their volumes look almost identical to other FX exchanges. Almost identical. The sellers are showing up here. It makes sense. It really does. I didn't want to delete that. I wanted to collapse it. Yep. I'd say your high of day is probably in. But we'll see. You got the 3-day 21 up there. That's a good place to take profits for longs. That's why you're seeing more sellers show up. Not necessarily short sellers. Long take profits are also sells. That's what's causing price to wiggle here. I'm sure there are short sellers also in the mix. I'm just saying, like, you get what I'm saying. Gonna leave the rest of your Bitcoin position to play out. Yes. Yep. If it makes a fresh 4-hour low, I'll be stopped out because we got in so high in the day's range. It was just for a scalp from the volatility generated by the news. That's all we were looking for. We got that. So yeah, I'm done with it. If it gets, there's a $600 position still open on upside with 20x leverage. That trade will pay out if we do get up here by next week or the end of next week. If we do get up to 65K, that would be a nice winner. That would generate roughly $1,000. So yeah, I'm going to leave it open. I'm going to leave it open, see what it does. I don't know that we're going to get up there, but I haven't seen anything yet to make me close it. But if it gets stopped out, I'll be fine with that also. And if it just makes a new low, it will be stopped out. So it doesn't have to go far to stop me out. If the dollar bounces here, that will most likely get stopped out. But yeah, that's how I do it, my friend. That's how I do it. Because that position, I don't care what happens. I've already been paid. I can't lose money on that trade. So I might as well leave it open to see what extra it can generate. SPCX still not breaking down here today. I don't think it will, because yesterday was such a large move back in as a reversal. So today is probably going to be really choppy, but the sellers are more aggressive than the buyers today. They're just not aggressive enough to see a big downtrending day. Now they could show up later and you could get that aggressive move lower, but it would be difficult scalping this for a short. One could arguably do it though, because generally when you get an expansion candle and then you put in several sideways candles, if it's refusing to put in that trending move, That's typically where we look to add to the trade. Now, I would argue and say you would be better off getting risk on here, or up here would be a better place to put that risk on. So not necessarily where it is right here, but could it hold? You are seeing people trade this level, so maybe you could try. I don't know what it's going to do. I'm done for the week. Like, from here on out, any trade that I take will be for next week. Today's the last day of the New York session. That ends the week for me. So any trade that I do, usually over the weekend, it gets accredited to the coming week. But yeah, that was a big move yesterday. I do think it will trend lower eventually. I just don't think it will today. Like, I'm not anticipating you're going to get a large breakdown today. Monday or Tuesday would be the next good day to look for setups on this. And if it's still under 159 at that point, I would be bearish again. This structure is bearish. And the sellers show back up here, so I like that. It's just down here is support. But yeah, we're going to keep SPX on watch because or SPCX, because it trades good every day. It puts in really good moves. Let's see what it's done today. It hasn't done much today. It's actually unchanged on the day. So today's been a shitty day, to be short or long. Just a choppy inside day. That's generally what you get after a big move. You get a choppy inside day, and then yeah. I wouldn't hold this over the weekend. Well, here, let me see. Depending on the funding fees. The funding fees are paying sellers over the weekend, then I wouldn't mind holding it, but if the funding fees, it is paying the sellers. So in that scenario, I wouldn't mind holding a short on it over the weekend. But if at any time that flips, I would probably get out. Because the fees or the funding rates on this is kind of expensive. It's the same way with oil. The funding rates on the oil perps are expensive. I spent almost $50 over the weekend, one weekend, holding a position on oil, and it didn't do anything. I lost that money just in funding. And then if you get stopped out after losing, you're essentially losing twice as much as you want to lose on it. Just make sure the funding pays you. Whatever position you're taking to hold over the weekend, make sure you're getting paid. All right. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day. We'll see you Tuesday of next week. Obviously, the Discord members, I'll see you guys Monday or Sunday, because we do a stream for members only. But yeah, hopefully we'll have more data on the dollar to be able to make a better decision going into next week. Kind of figured this week would be choppy and sideways on the dollar because of non-farm payrolls, and that's exactly what played out. Next week will be better because there isn't any hardcore data coming out next week. CPI might be coming out, but there's not going to be a press conference here, so that doesn't matter. And I don't see anything for next week. There is high risk event news, but it's not really that big at all. I mean, ISM comes out every week. this one right here might be, I doubt they do anything different, but we'll see. Next week should be good for the dollar. But anyways, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Make sure you guys trade safe, trade smart, and as always, happy trading, everybody.